teenage America.
Hello, this is Christopher Rivera, and you're watching Industrial Music Culture. Well, I spent most of my life either keeping to myself, to my own devices in my own little world, illustrating my little comic books, spending time with my older sister, getting into the more mature things through the filter of her life as opposed to me experiencing it. From there, I got into heavy music. At the time, Cradle Filth, a lot of nu metal bands, a lot of heavier music. She was more into the opposite spectrum of the alternative world as I was too. She listened to more alternative indie gothic bands and pop bands at the time, early 2000s and what have you, which were also great too. I am a huge fan of Michael Jackson growing up. We were a house with music because we like to spend a lot of time to ourselves, and music was a great way to really escape from our parents constantly fighting and hating each other. Growing up, I spent more time drawing and illustrating, and from there, listening to better and better music, to more heavier, to the tune of what I wanted to feel and what I wanted to escape, the feeling that I wanted to escape and to let out of my body at the time.
I know your pain. I'm like you.
I got into industrial music about age of 12 or 13, I would say. Big thanks to my older brother. When he was touring in the military, got to experience a lot of those places and sounds firsthand. And when he came back in the States and I was hanging out with him, and he introduced me into all the Goody Wax Trax bands and Ogre and Skinny Puppy, the main project, and all of that stuff. And I absolutely fell in love with it because of the personality, the strong personality, where they each had their own world and their own sound that they developed from nothing, and it was so creative, it was so different from everything that I was really into at that time. But at the end of the day, I felt that it was at the very bottom of the tree of music, like a root. Each were roots in that timeline, in that music tree line that I was very much enthralled with. I absolutely lost myself in that genre because I felt that there was so much passion in it, there was so much creativity in it. It was like unmatched. It was truly a whole universe made with one artist, and I became absolutely addicted to it. I just couldn't get enough of it. It came to a point where there was just so many bands that had that specific sound that really got to me at the time, and eventually I just had to end up making it myself. Again, I was about 12 or 13 when I really started to become a musician. Well, when I guess the bug really bit me was around that time, because I got my first drum set then. A little after that, my dad got me my first synthesizer, and I just scoured the internet for every software I could define, or every software developmental thing that I could find to make sounds with, anything that I could. And I would just be alone in my room for days on end trying to recreate the sounds of my favorite songs, or trying to get close to what they did, because obviously they weren't going to tell me. I wasn't just going to ask these dudes. I'm just some little kid. I had such an obsession with it. I had to find out. I had to know. I had to seek this information by myself, and I just became totally enveloped in it, and I absolutely lost myself within it. After I got comfortable in my illustrative, cartoon, graffiti world and drawing and all that stuff, I essentially took the next step to inspire to inspire and to just have that creativity be endless by just making the music, making the world, shaping the atmosphere, creating it, drawing it, making the story for it, just writing a whole another world. Obviously, Skinny Puppy was my number one inspiration. They were the first band that I really saw live with my brother, and we haven't missed a California date since. Numb from Vancouver was also one of the main inspirations for me growing up. Christmeister was a huge inspiration for me. Majority of Cleopatra bands back in the 90s. That includes Penal Colony, of course Spawn Ranch as well. There was even Pressure Head, Raised in Black, of course, one of the very few Hawaiian industrial projects. Absolutely amazing band. There's so many in that era, especially in the Wax Trax era too. Controlled Bleeding, Revco, the whole East Coast side of things, the mixture of the heaviness with the addition of the guitar too. November 17th and 17, Schnitt Oct. Early stages of Godflesh, like Head of David. There's numerous bands, Diatribe, of course. So many that I could absolutely just get lost in. But all of those bands, because of the aggressiveness, the heavy aspects behind it, the elements, because I first got enveloped into the hardcore scene growing up, because that was my generation. All of my friends, that's what they were into at the time. So from there, I became a drummer first in all that stuff and all of that music, all those genres, all those metal subgenres, progressive, technical, deathcore, gore, grindcore, all of that stuff. I had to learn all that. I had to play all of that. I would be recording my friends and their bands and their projects, and then come home with that experience and with all of that knowledge, and then try to perfect my sound, my industrial sound. I absolutely wanted it to find a way to merge it somehow, to merge the spirit of industrial with the heaviness, the ferocity of a hardcore band, of an extreme metal band, because those vocalists, those artists, they absolutely gave in their heart and soul, and they screamed at the top of their lungs, metaphorically and physically. I feel, because of just the passion behind it, and that's really what caught my attention into music and brought me into that world. The project started, or really left off, when I broke up, or when my the mother of my child and I split up. I was forced to move back to my hometown. It was very depressing. It was very bad. Absolutely not a good feeling to have felt like I lost everything. The one true person that I absolutely loved. Spent time away from my daughter. We had a child, and I felt absolutely ripped away from all of that. Had to move back in with my mom, which was embarrassing. It was horrible. All I did at that time was I would just cry myself to sleep. I eventually got into mixed martial arts, which I got the shit kicked out of me every single day. And then I would come home battered and bruised, absolutely broken, and then I'd still be crying at night because of the mental pain and the physical pain on top of that. Eventually, I got to a point where I realized that this pain really wasn't the end, and in a way, it felt kind of liberating, because I knew that there was so many other bad things out there, bad things that could happen, bad things that haven't happened. I still had so much. I absolutely still had everything in my world. It absolutely wasn't the end, even though it did feel like it. It was just a way for me to see life through the perspective of me being in a hole that I had dug myself, with my emotions, with my feelings, with the actions that I have done, everything that I did wrong in my life, thinking, like being in a mental prison almost, but you could leave whenever you wanted to. But that exercise, that training helped me get my mind back on the track to where I felt I needed to be. And there would be times where I would be so overwhelmed with emotion. I would feel so terrible. I would feel so sad. I would feel so strong in my head that it was like being crippled. I would just be staring at the wall. I couldn't think. I couldn't talk. I was mentally crippled. And that's essentially where the name came from, because when I was thinking and when I was happy, all the thoughts came to my head, all the words came to my head, all the advice came to my head. But yet when I was this person that was mentally crippled, I couldn't have any of that. So I would write letters to myself, I would write poetry to myself, I would write messages to myself to remind me, to help me out, to give myself that leverage to get out of that hole that I had dug by myself, for myself, in a way, so to speak. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a masochist, but I felt that it was very important to feel these things, to understand, so I could not only not ever experience that again, but to understand why I'm feeling it, and to put it in a more positive light, and to shape it into something that would be constructive rather than destructive, rather than just being sad and abusing a substance, or abusing myself, or doing something stupid, or trying to hurt myself in some way, shape, or form. It was a way to think about it, to act upon it constructively, and build something positive, what I perceived as a positive. And this was around 2013, 2014, I believe, because the project didn't really lift off until 2016, 2017. That's when I actually started to be a little bit more, I started to push it a lot more. At first I just kept it to myself for a while. Eventually I knew I had to do something with it. I felt like it was really stagnant, all the music that was coming out. At the time, I didn't feel a whole lot of it coming to me. I didn't feel a whole lot of that, what I liked to hear. Things in specifics weren't being met, like the type of music that I was really after. I felt back then like I wasn't hearing, or there wasn't a whole lot of it. There could be a lot more of it. So eventually I had to start pushing it and putting myself out there and trying to meet the right people. I first met Greenhaw at a show in Downey. I believe it was for our friends Rex Arcana in his project at the time. He was a very easy guy to talk to. He had been in the scene for a while too. I told him about my project. I told him about the music that I liked. It was very easy for us to get along. We had a lot of the same things going on in our life at the time, just music-wise, what we were interested in. He was just very, very easy to talk to. I mostly just pour my heart out to people that really enjoy music as much as I do. I find it's much easier to interact. So it was very easy for us to just have a drink together and start chatting about music. And hey, you need a drummer, and like, hey, you need this and that. So it just kind of blossomed from there. And eventually he introduced me to his friend, Brennan Ross. Eventually Brennan moved down here and we started working more together, and it kind of just blossomed into, hey, we know this person, we know a guitarist, who else do you know, things like that. And the branch is so small, the community is so small for people that really enjoy that specific type of music. It was very easy for us to find everybody that had the time, that actually gave a shit about it, that had the motivation to, and it was history from there. It was very easy from there to establish the whole team after that. I would say we more or less have only had one-off shows here and there, maybe a couple back to back. I wouldn't say we've had a whole official tour yet. I'd like to sometime around next year, hopefully, once we maintain the necessary connections to just one shot to another, straight shot, playing one after another. But our first couple of shows could have gone better. First one was by myself. That one could have gone a lot better, but still at the same time, it was very liberating just to be up on a nice stage around a lot of nice people that I also looked up to. That was a very nice experience. I felt really good playing that. That was a great feeling just to be up on stage and releasing everything. Absolutely giving myself to all those beautiful people. First album release, I recanted. I took it back because I felt that it wasn't up to par with what I believe should be a product that should be out there forever for everybody to really critique me on. It wasn't ready. I felt it was very underdeveloped. I'm going to get back to that. I'm going to remaster it. I'm going to fix it all up the way that I feel that it should be, with the things that I know now, with the knowledge, with the people that I have in my life now, that I know would make that sound so much tighter, so much better. I want people to know that I do care deeply about, I wouldn't necessarily call it a product, but I suppose it is, the art behind it. I very much want to leave a lasting impression on this earth and in the music world, that I want something to be up to a certain expectation. I very much care a lot about music, about this project in general, and that I believe that it should be up to a certain quality. If I'm going to cook you a meal, it should be something that I would eat myself. And if it's not, then I would 100% take it back, and I would rather you not eat it until it's ready, until that I feel it is up to par. I respect you. I want you to respect me, obviously. So I want to give you something that I feel deserves respect. So I will get back to that first album release eventually. We have a whole list of things to do before then, but I do want to make it as airtight as it could possibly be, as good of a quality as I feel it could humanly be, and then it shall be out for the world to enjoy long after I'm dead. First music video was a pretty fun experience. It was kind of just what I normally do, get some nice VHS footage of myself, of my friends. At the time, I got kind of emotional. I was my mom was getting evicted out of our childhood home, and that is where my cat was buried. I consider that cat to be my guardian angel. The cat has been with me since I was a baby. Look at this photo. See, as soon as they brought me in from the hospital, this little feller here followed us home and stuck with me ever since. So I felt a personal connection to her. Her name is Sharina. May she rest in peace. And so I decided one day to get her back. I didn't break in. It was outside, but it wasn't our home at the time. I went back there and I dug her up, all the parts that I could get out, and I came to take her with me, because those people that live there now, I thought they wouldn't respect that, they wouldn't understand. So I got my friend to videotape me, and we got her out of there, and we put her in that, the footage was used in that music video, and I felt that it was At the time, I felt it had a lot to do with the lyrics, the content, the understanding, the story that I had in mind for that song, which was Worm. The way that I felt, it meant a lot to me. That song meant a lot to me. That was one of the first well put together songs that I felt I had written at the time. So it was very emotional for me, but it was very it was an alright experience. It only got better after that, but I was still learning. I was still learning a lot about myself. I was still learning a lot about music and life and other things. But at the time, it was an enjoyable experience. The subject matter has to deal with a lot, life and death, a lot of the struggles that people have to go through, emotions. It's very emotional, but I want it to be understood that I put violence in a music video or in art. I feel that violence in art is to get you to think, is to get people to come to an understanding, not just about its grotesqueness or it's over the top or bloody. It's there for a reason. You know, I like being happy. I like being optimistic, but at the same time, you have to understand that life isn't fair all the time, and some things hurt, and there's pain that is felt, and there's pain that changes, that alters the way that you think. And this was very much the type of pain to alter the way that I thought, the way that I felt. And I want people to understand that with a lot of the imagery used in the music in this project, it's not meant to just be scary or creepy. I want people to be comfortable in that sadness, in that darkness, in that hostility, to a certain extent, because I got a little too comfortable in it and it started to become a problem. But we all have to see that inner balance between that and love and happiness. There's pain, there's torment, there's loss when you gain so much. But when we lose so much and then we gain so very little, it changes us. It changes our personality to help us understand that we need this to truly appreciate that which we don't have, that little that we do have, those who care for us. We're very fortunate, and I believe that I am very fortunate. So that's a very important lesson to learn. The last single that we released, Snow, that I wrote to be released on Valentine's Day, was essentially my goodbye to the world that I've written over so many times in the past before, in a way to show how much I truly love people, how much I truly do want to be here. At the same time, I understand what it's like more than usual, to the pain felt by others, to not really know your purpose, and to also know it at the same time, to not be able to escape certain things. Sometimes it really hurts, but I know that I am here for a reason, and I know that I just have to trudge on despite the feelings, despite all the negatives, the positives. There is something that I have to do. I absolutely have to do music. I want to. I love it. I love a lot of things, but a lot of things hurt at the same time. But it is a very important lesson that I feel I need to learn, and I'm very appreciative of it. At the same time, I want my loved ones to know that I do very much care for them very well. I may not always be there, but that letter, that song, was to those people that I care very much about. And I want them to know that I will never forget them. I'll never push any of my issues on them. I'd rather just eat that silently every day. I felt that it was a very, a lot of my songs are metaphorical, but also somewhat kind of cynical. because it's not your typical average love song. It's the other side of that. Um, without that love, take away that love, and what do you have? But absolutely, at the same time, when you have all that negative, you long for that love. So it was kind of a double-edged sword, so to speak, song that I wrote to be particularly released on that day. So I hope a lot of people got that. Kind of like a, I wouldn't call it a sick inside joke, but a little something for people that really pay attention. I appreciate those people. Pre-show rituals. I just like to be alone. Like to get my head in the game. It's like back before I would step into the ring, kind of just exercise a little bit, get all the butterflies out of your stomach. That's it. Just relax. Try not to think about the show too much, because I mean you're gonna do what you're gonna do regardless of who's watching you, of who's looking. It's hard sometimes to get up there and expose yourself to a bunch of strangers, knowing exactly what they're thinking, how they're feeling, because I do it to other people too. I mean, I am guilty of it. I judge people. Everybody is, and I do care what people think. So sometimes it is very hard to separate that. I do feel like I hold a lot in, and once I'm on stage, that all comes out, and I am absolutely naked up there in front of all those people. Even all of my friends have seen me before millions of times. Sometimes it's just I get a little too overwhelmed with all the emotion that comes out, all the subject matter. It's like reliving all of that pain, all those traumatic experiences over and over and over again, constantly back to back, in front of a lot of people that you may know or may not know. Either way, it's what I'm there for, and it's what I want to do. So I'm going to make the best out of it. I hope that it leaves a lasting impression on them. I hope somewhere in their consciousness there's a connection there. There is that unsaid connection is really what drove me to music, knowing that somebody out there, some stranger in some faraway place that may not even speak the same language as you, has felt the same things that you have, experienced it somehow, some way, and there's a connection there, an unspoken connection there, in the music, in the artistry, in the visualization of it, in what you hear, any of that, any I hate to say it, but any type of validation, really, that you can feel, that I feel in music or in anything. It's a universal feeling to me, and that is really the purpose behind this whole project, and behind a lot of things that I do in my life, really. Or I hope, I really hope so, and I just want to get better and better at that, and reach more and more people who actually care, because that's what makes it all worth it. Hobbies outside of music, I guess just my art. I also work in videos, music videos, editing, trying to do software, anything in the art world, really. I just want to build a life revolving around art constantly. So anything that I could really do in this artist spectrum, so to speak, I guess would be my hobby outside of it. At the same time, I am trying to be healthy and actually live a normal life. So it's kind of difficult sometimes, but I would one day want my whole world to be revolved around either music or art in some way, shape, or form. Eventually, I do want to get into directing. I have a couple of scripts laid out. I have a lot of storyboards and ideas that I want to do for my music videos. Also, I'm going to start filming those in a more classic way once I get the whole industrial visualization out of my head. Once I make the perfect 90s industrial music video, then I can move on into something a bit more like a movie. Eventually, I would like to have more stories and more long-lasting music videos like they did in the 80s and the 90s, how those music videos were just so grand all the time and they're just so timeless. I feel the need to make timeless music or a timeless music video or something that could just stand the test of time. So that's always going to be my goal on this earth. Until I do that, I will die a restless spirit. I will not be able to rest. Favorite food and drink. I like smoothies. I like being healthy. I also like to be unhealthy. I like a lot of I'll drink a lot of whiskey. I'm not gonna lie. These guys, my bandmates, they got me finally used to it. So I'll drink a little here and there. I like a good old Jameson ginger ale now. I'll also just take it straight too. I don't care. I don't really have the palate for alcohol. I can't drink wine. I can't taste it. I can't really taste a lot of the true flavors in a lot of things. I like a lot of sugar. I'm still very much a kid when it comes to all of that stuff. My palate isn't really mature yet, I guess you could say. So I don't really I won't really argue it. If you hand me a drink, I'll drink it. If you hand me pig's vomit, I'll probably drink it. Just if you give it to me, I'll feel like I have to do it. I won't say anything about it. I'll say something afterwards, but I'll drink it first. Food. Oh, that's a tough one. I love Chinese food. I love seafood too. I also like a lot of Southern comfort food. I believe that there's a Southern man in my spirit somewhere in there. I don't know, for my mom's side or dad's side, I can't tell you what, but something about that food, just something about just, I hate to say it, but just being so, I love comfort food. I can't help it. I feel like it's a sin sometimes to just engorge myself, but I don't really know when my next meal will be, or I act like that a lot. So I'll just eat as much as I possibly can, and then just like I'm on hibernation or something. I can't really. I don't know. I'll eat just about anything. I'll eat bugs. I can't eat rocks. I found that out the hard way. Whatever you want to give me, hey, I'll eat it. I'm starving right now. Pets. I want to have a cat so bad, but I'm just so irresponsible right now. One of these days I want to have another cat again, but obviously nothing will ever compare to the cat that I had. But I just love cats. I have some kind of spiritual connection with kitty cats. There's something about it, man. I just can't help it. Snakes are cool too, but just something about cats. They're so smart. They're so self-sufficient. You know, at the same time, like they're not always affectionate, but when they are, I feel it's so special. Or just something about them just really mirrors that energy that I have with them. So I just really love cats. I mean, don't get me wrong, dogs are great too. You just gotta have the room for them. It's very much like having a child, and you know, I would want to be there. I need to be there all day for them, absolutely, of course. But I just feel like with a cat, it would be a lot less painful for me to leave him or her every day to go do what I have to do, and then come back to somebody who loves and cares for you. Would love a cat one day. Family, my sister still lives in LA County. I think it's LA County, not too far away. I could see her whenever. My dad, my other family is in Arizona. Eventually, when I'm all done here, I want to go retire out there and live like a madman out in a house by myself in the middle of nowhere, and just make music again, and be with them sometimes, and then just go crazy in my house and make art and do dumb things. Non-industrial bands or artists, I would say Korn. I hope they're not industrial. I don't think they're industrial. I'm pretty sure they're nu metal, but I guess that's subjective. I don't know. I like a lot of deathcore bands from back in the day, from when I was younger, of course. Still, Crop Circles is always going to be my number one. They're like a forgotten band. A lot of people don't remember. Acacia Strain is great too. I like Static X. It's hard to just narrow it down to a few because so many had an impact on me. Like a lot of the crossover bands, Spine Shank being one of them, Edema. A lot of those nu metal bands played with a lot of different genres. I like a lot of old school hip hop too. So any band from any genre that has an element, somewhat type of hip hop element in that, when it may be sampling, like a lot of DJs, like a lot of techno bands, like a lot of European techno artists, Chemical Brothers, Audio Bullies. There's so many artists out there, and I love it when they touch back to the roots, or to hip hop, or to soul, or to blues, to anything. Just knowing their history, that tells me a lot about that artist, and I really admire that. I love when an artist can easily go back in time and forward in time and still somehow keep themselves in the mix. Just understand where they are in that scale, in that spectrum, in that timeline, understand their place, but also bring those elements to the table to emulate it, not to rip it off, not to try to replicate it, but just have the spirit in themselves, and also take on all the things that they like, their own personal experiences, and somehow package that into something to where this is that band. They have all of this and that. Like some people, it's amazing that they could somehow hear, I love X Marks the Pedwalk. That is like one of my number one bands that I love, and Skinny Puppy. And somehow people can always hear that when they hear my voice. I think I sound nothing like them. A lot of people say that I sound like Skinny Puppy, but then again, a lot of bands sound like Skinny Puppy, I guess, when you don't know the whole history behind industrial music, or how it came from, what it used to be, how it came there, things like that. Favorite venues? I like the Regent. The Regent was a pretty fun show to play. I kind of like the more. I like doing a lot more of like the backyard kind of style shows, the more intimate shows. But then again, we are a band that's heavily dependent on electronics, so we do kind of require a sound system of some sort, unfortunately. But I do really like the punk shows. I love the punk energy. I appreciate that crowd so much more. I'd really like to play to more of a rap hip hop crowd. I really feel like there's a lot of open-minded individuals, especially in the new generation coming into the scene. I feel that they are doing a better job of bringing the industrial spirit back into the mix than a lot of the veterans, so to speak, that are in this genre. I feel like they're kind of forgetting that feeling, or I can't stand the feeling of gatekeeping in a community that's already so small to begin with, when we're all supposed to be apparently cut from the same cloth. We're all supposed to be outcasts, but yet somehow in there you're making everybody else feel so much more excluded than we already are. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know, to taking advantage of somebody who's been constantly taken advantage of. I don't know. I really hate it. I really hate to think about it, but I just, some communities just get so in over their head or caught up in their own game, chasing their own tail, or like a barrel full of crabs just pulling each other down. Really, I mean, this community that we have now, it's self-reliant. I mean, we kind of all made it here on our own. Like all of my friends right now in this scene, they're all just DIY people, and we're gonna just continue to do it no matter what happens. Like Spike Hellis and Contra Cold and Fact Pattern and Enrique from Pain Behavior, we're all individuals, but we all agree on the same fundamental ideals, which I absolutely appreciate. But that's how a real community should be, honestly. I mean, we're all just headed in the same direction. We all care deeply for music, and that's why we're doing this, for the music, for the arts, for that expression. But we all agree on one fundamental thing, and we all support each other, and I love it. It's the greatest. Just like Cold Waves. I love Cold Waves. I really want to play more Cold Waves, because I feel that's where all the industrial bands that really touched me, that's where their community is, or it lies in, or it used to lie, I don't know, but they have all of the legends, and I would really like to be a part of that more often. I would love to play a show with Revolting Cocks. I would love to be on the same stage as Ministry or Skinny Puppy, obviously. More of that, more industrial events, festivals. But at the same time, of course, I want to be accessible to everybody, and I want to have new listeners in as well. I want people that don't even like this type of music. I would love for them to hear us and be like, wow, this is pretty cool. Even though I don't like it, it's pretty freaking cool. Because that's what I do to a lot of other bands that are out there that I don't necessarily like, or the style. I could appreciate it, and I could feel that they're genuine. And I love that. I love that feeling. I would love for somebody to feel that way towards me too. Any festival, any event, doesn't matter. Just as long as they're welcoming to us, I appreciate that. I'm still working on the master album, the big grand project, the big release. I'm still working on that. Right now, I'm getting help from Daniel Evans, a great engineer, great producer. I really trust his sound. I trust what he does, because I know that he's worked with a lot of the bands that I like. I know that he has the sound in mind that I'm really looking for. And right now I really need that Atticus Ross to be working alongside with me, because I've been working on this album for the good part of 5 years now, and it's all done in my area. I feel like structure-wise, it's as airtight as I feel it can be. Now I just need to get the quality side behind it, and I feel like he is a very good person to go to for that. So once this is done, it'll be up to par, up to my standard, and it'll be ready for the world. So I'm very excited for that. There's gonna be a lot of songs on that. That might be a double full length. I don't know. I'll jam as many songs onto that album as I possibly can. But that's going to be good. That's going to be a fun one. Music videos, a lot of music videos coming up with me and other bands that I'm working with. I have a super secret cover that I'm working on with 2 other artists. It's an 80s song that we did together. We're gonna do a really cool 80s project. We're gonna make a super sexy 80s music video. That's gonna be really fun. I always collab with artists in my community and with others, remixes or what have you. Just constantly working on music with other people. Anybody who's nice enough, who's cool enough, who's patient enough, absolutely more than willing to work on them or with them on something, anything, doesn't matter. Male Tears and I are constantly working on things together. A lot of my friends I'm doing remixes for. I help them out. They help me out sometimes, like Angel Nightmare from Midnight Nightmare. Sometimes he helps me out. He'll write me a bass line or something like that when everybody else is unavailable at 3 a.m. when I'm wide awake and I'm writing music like a madman. There's lots of people out there that I'm really cool with. Like Contra Cult 2, Travis. We work on some things when we have time. I want to do more with him, obviously. But we're both kind of busy, so it happens. But we'll always have time for music in the future. To anybody out there who really cares, I want you to understand that there is going to be times in your life, and there will continue to be times in your life where you may feel that this is all kind of pointless, that you think nobody really cares. What's the point of everything? You know, why bother? Ideas like that kind of just creep up into your head when you're doing so much, or when you feel that you're not doing as much as you really could, like your fullest potential, things like that. Those thoughts are temporary, because then once you're busy, you don't really think about anything. If you're really focused and if you're really busy, you'll never have enough time in the world to really get the things done that you want to do. Even though you're doing so many things all at once, you won't really realize and see all the fruits of your efforts until afterwards, when you're all done running around like you're on fire. You know, it's those times when we're at the top is when we feel our worst sometimes as well. So please try not to let those thoughts run your mind, run your world. Absolutely, you are in control of your own world too, but when you are, we trick ourselves into thinking that we're lame, we're ugly, we're not talented, we're wasting our time, we're wasting our efforts. I'm never going to be like this person. To that, I say you're not going to be like that person. You're going to be your own person. Even though there's so many people in your world that do things better than you do, there's never going to be you doing the things that you do, because that's what makes you an individual, and that's what makes you beautiful, and that's what makes you matter in a world where everybody is trying to be the same person. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like you're fighting an uphill battle, and really we're never gonna win, but the pursuit of finishing what we have to do, what we need to do, that is the constant driving force behind doing and wishing. Because there's so many things that I want to do, I'm never gonna get it done. I'll get one thing done today, maybe tomorrow, but I'm never gonna get all of that done in one day. So please just pace yourself. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but at least you can do one thing in a day or in an hour, hopefully. Just brick by brick. Small. Start off small. And to all the new bands and artists out there, I want to say the same thing. Stick with yourself. Focus on yourself, and then let the world in. Don't let it mold you and shape you like a lot of other people I know. It happened to them, and then they start to lose themselves later on. Develop your personality first. Develop who you are first, and then throw yourself out there to the wolves, so you know the difference between you and them, and you're not self-absorbed in some grand idea of something that you're not, or to get lost in something because it's so nice and you came from nothing at all. It's really just a test, honestly, to see who you are amidst other people. But please just believe in yourself and just stick to the steps, just one day at a time, really. Thanks for watching, Industrial People. This is Christopher Rivera from Invalid, and we are here for you.